All right. Hello, everyone. This is a little bit more of a political video. If you're watching this, bless you, because I am about to take you on a very unusual journey, which is not kind of like related to my usual topics. You might think that I would be talking about the inauguration of Donald Trump or Marianne Williamson's run for DC chair, but I'm not. Um, because I usually use this platform to just talk about whatever I'm inspired by. And it happened that it came up on my YouTube feed after 4 years or 3 years. The viral Parish Town Council of Handforth video, which is a kind of council meeting on Zoom for lockdown that went viral because it became very chaotic. And out of it emerged these sort of stars of the parish council. Well, actually, the most the sort of biggest star to emerge from that was actually not from the council. She was called into it. So I would love to be able to go through it sort of frame by frame, but I don't. I have not yet figured that out. My technical skill is sort of limited to point and click when it comes to YouTube videos, and I know how to upload once I've done that. Anyway, I will link the videos below. the I think there's like three that anyone should see because I feel like a lot of people saw the viral video and then they didn't know the context. And the prequel and the sequel are quite important to understand who's who in as the players of the game. Um, but basically, Handforth is outside of Manchester in England, and a parish is just slightly smaller than a town, so it's kind of like a village council. And during lockdown, apparently the chairman, Brian Tolver, was had not called a meeting in about 9 months. So the community was concerned that like they were kind of rudderless, and I imagine that during lockdown and the COVID happenings, there must have been a lot of people in the town of Handforth who were needing masks and wondering what the rules were and how it applied to their community, which would be it would be the role of the council to provide assistance and information in that case. So the fact that the chairman had not called a meeting in so long was significant. And then two other councillors, I believe it was John Smith and Sue Moore, um, on their own, which supposedly they're allowed to do, had called an extraordinary council meeting and invited the chairman and the vice chairman, which was Aled Brewerton. And they, the what do you call it? It's like the clerk is like a little bit like a moderator, but also kind of like the person who is most apprised of the standing orders, which are the rules of council meetings. They know a lot of the legal nuts and bolts, usually clerks, but they're not sort of the head to make final decisions. Anyway, so they had called for a meeting, and then they had requested, because the clerk was MIA due to some legal things going on, they had called for an emergency meeting, an extraordinary meeting, and then they had requested a clerk from the district to come in, which was Jacky Weaver, who is the person who became famous through this video. Now, she is a sort of itinerant clerk, so it means she can act as a clerk in any emergency situation within the district of Cheshire East, I guess it is. yeah, I don't know like all the thing. There must be county levels and then districts and then parishes or villages or towns. Anyway, so they had called her in to moderate the meeting, and she'd obliged, and then they had extended the courtesy to Brian Tolver to chair the meeting. Now he's already the chair of the council, and I don't think it necessarily follows that the chair of the council always chairs the meetings, but I think usually it's the default. Sometimes the chair will ask someone else to chair if their voice is if they have strep throat or something, or for whatever reason. Sometimes they just have someone else chair different segments because they know more about that topic. Anyway, so I think there was something weird going on because Jacky Weaver had been apprised of the fact that Brian Tolver, who was the chairman of the meeting and of the council, that he had, I'm assuming, that she was apprised of the fact that he was planning something with two of his cohorts. So it was kind of a council of six, and then there were three on one side and three on the other. And it was in a stalemate since 2015, because I watched like videos way back. And Brian Tolver had managed to kind of create this opposition to the three council members who were sort of friends. And then it was like in a gridlock for years upon years, where it was very hard to get anything passed because he would find ways to object. And then he would go on for an interminably long period of time doing monologues about the rules and the standing orders. And he would always find some little thing to pick at that would take the meeting just like down a rabbit hole. And so I think that Jacky Weaver knew that, which was part of the reason that she was sort of prepared to have to act in an extreme manner in the meeting. And now I don't understand why you have 6 members of council. In the Himalayas where I grew up, there's a thing called the panchayat, which is a council of 5, which is the standard for villages in the Himalayas in India, because you always have a swing vote. So I don't know. And then you avoid that gridlock situation. So I don't know why they insist on having 6 members. Maybe there's a reason. Anyway, so Brian Tolver, the chairman, wanted to express when he got to the Zoom meeting. I mean, I wonder if maybe the reason that he hadn't called a Zoom meeting was for 9 months was the fact that he wasn't that familiar with Zoom. He's an older gentleman. And then, COVID lockdown, and then what do you do, right? So maybe he just didn't want to be bothered with Zoom. But in subsequent meetings, he seemed very well apprised of how Zoom works, because he was giving a little tutorial at the beginning of one of the meetings. Anyway, so when he entered the meeting, he declared the meeting was not legal, which, based on what I've seen of all the videos, is not correct, because I think that the 2 council members can call for a meeting if they inform the chairman, which they say they did by email, and he didn't respond. Now, I'm kind of prepared to believe them, because I don't know why they wouldn't email him. And he said requisitioned, and I don't know if there's a difference between requisitioning the chairman and emailing the chairman, if you have to have something notarized, or if it's like really an involved process to requisition the chairman, or if it's just a matter of emailing him to notify him, we want to do this meeting, we'd like you to attend. If you can't, we're going to elect a chair at the meeting, which they said they did. Anyway, so he said this has not been made according to the law. And then Jacky Weaver, he was filibustering because he was going into the rules and at length, which is something that he did. He's not with us anymore. And actually, I miss him because I thought he was quite fascinating to watch. But he was like the villain of this kind of drama in Handforth. But I thought he was a very interesting sort of like character, not in terms of being a character in a play, but being a character with like a salt of the earth character. Anyway, he did not stop talking, and then he kept, and Jacky Weaver was trying to interrupt to explain her perspective on the rules, which as a clerk, even an acting clerk, is her position to do. And then he was shouting like, "Stop talking," which she said, "Look, if you're not going to behave in an orderly manner, I'm going to eject you from the meeting." I don't know if an acting clerk or a sitting clerk has the authority to eject a chairman who is chairing the meeting, even if as a courtesy. Like, I don't think so. It didn't look like it to me, and the sort of jury of the internet seems to have ruled that she didn't have the authority to eject a chairman from the meeting or any councillor without a vote happening. So, like, theoretically, Councillor Sampson, Sue Sampson, and Councillor John Smith, or Councillors Cynthia, she's Sampson, Sue Moore, Cynthia Smith. Okay, sorry, Cynthia Sampson, she's Sampson. Anyway, they could have, one of them could have put forward a motion and then everyone voted on it to eject the chairman from the meeting, which then Aled Brewerton and Barry Burkhill would probably have objected to. And I don't know if the chairman, Brian Tolver, could have voted on that, because that seems to me to fall under the heading of non-pecuniary interest, which means it's a vote that you have an interest in, that could benefit you or not. But that type of vote might only apply to items on the agenda. Anyway, oh my God, I got so into this, you guys. It was really hilarious. I could not stop watching it. Like, I think I spent 3 nights looking over all the old meetings and all of the interpretations, and then the Piers Morgan interview, and then some of Aled Burkle's testimony on his own channel, and also Tolver himself put out a video refuting what was said about him, because the court of a public opinion came down on the side of Jacky Weaver. That because they did, a lot of people just saw the one video and they saw like these 3 men who were councillors shouting at her, because then she did eject. He was saying, "You have no authority at all, Jacky Weaver," and then she ejected him from the meeting. And then Aled Brewerton said, "You can't eject him," and then she was like, "Can we elect a chair of the meeting now? Because if the chair is not there, then you elect another one," which is probably what they were planning to do. They were expecting that Aled and Brian Tolver would not attend the meeting, and then they would elect a chair, because there was no chair there. Since he hadn't called for a meeting in 9 months, why would he come now? But he did. Anyway, so I think then it defaults that he's the chair. I'm not sure of that. Anyway, so then Aled said, "You can't eject him. And then even if you do, you can't elect a new chair, because then I'm the chair. I take charge." That, it was very dramatic the way he said it. But I think he was right, in fact. Like, I think he would be the next in line then to take charge if the vice chair is there. And he was the vice chair. It was hard to tell because he had his dad on camera. I'm assuming it was his dad, someone from his household, an older man, who was acting up during the meeting, like, to say the least. He was cackling quite a bit, and he was making a lot of sarky comments. And you wouldn't know looking at that. And he was hogging the camera. So you wouldn't know that then the young chap sitting next to him, especially if you're Jacky Weaver, you wouldn't know that that is actually the vice chair of the council. Also, maybe like prejudicially, you were expecting someone older to be the vice chair. Anyway, also, Jacky Weaver is a very nice lady, and she greeted everyone beautifully, especially, she was very welcoming to the members of the public. She did not greet Aled Brewerton. Nobody greeted Aled Brewerton. I don't think he was popular on the council. But I would have. I mean, I feel bad for Ella Burgeon, but I think that he must be quite impossible to get along with. And similarly, I don't feel bad for Brian Tolver, but I did think he was interesting. Like I don't think this video would have been viral without them. And Jacky Weaver. Like I think those are the three stars of the piece. Anyway, so she ended up ejecting 3 members of the council, which ripple effect resulted in the stalemate being broken, because after that, Ella Burton and Barry Burkhill would not attend any more meetings, and they didn't send apologies, so they just sort of ghosted the council, which it took a long time to sort of have them removed, but they were not present to make any votes, and if a council member is not present, then their vote doesn't count in a meeting. It's okay to be there via Zoom, but only during lockdown. I think the legalities were that once it was possible to meet in public in person, council meetings had to be in person after that point. Boris Johnson. Anyway, so it's very much sort of emerged, like people are in camps, or certainly at the time they were in camps, like it was Team Jacky Weaver or Team Brian Tolver. I like Jacky Weaver, but I don't think she was right to eject them from the meeting according to the standing orders or the law. But I would have. I mean, if I were her, I would have ejected definitely Brian Tolver, because he was going on for an interminably long period of time. He sounds like he's crying when he talks, and he's a very interesting fellow, but you'd never, ever, ever get anything done. It was like going into a swamp. And I don't think that I would have had the patience to do it according to the standing orders. Even I think it's sort of her job to know the standing orders in all the parish councils in Cheshire East, and I think that she did know. Now, there's something that nobody seems to have thought of, and nobody talks about, which is the fact that parish councils and town councils were suddenly, during lockdown, transposed onto Zoom and Teams, which means that there's automatically, by default, someone with an eject button. Someone has the power to eject someone from the meeting. So whether they have the legal authority or not, they have the ability to eject someone from a meeting, which you would not have in a youth centre unless you have several burly bailiffs, which I don't think Handforth ever had. So I think that given that, the balance of power is different, and therefore they should have thought of the fact that a chairman might act up, and there needs, the Zoom needed to match the process, the legal process, and it didn't, which is why Jacky Weaver was able to eject those 3 guys from the meeting, because she had the button. She was hosting the meeting. And now, is it legally appropriate for the clerk to have that amount of power over a council meeting? Or should the chairman be hosting the meeting and have the access to the eject button? I think that the clerk is in charge of sort of nuts and bolts, which is why they let them host the meetings. But then, of course, they also have, I mean, I guess like in a court, the bailiff has the physical ability to remove anyone, including the judge, but that usually doesn't happen. Anyway. So yeah, I think that in spirit, I'm with Jacky Weaver because of the fact that something had to change in that council, and whether she acted appropriately or not, according to the standing orders, the ripple effect was that after that incident, the council got on a lot better because they were able to pass things. Oh, I have a question though. If the meeting was illegal, which it would not be because it was called without informing the chairman. I mean, yeah, it would have. But if they had informed the chairman, then the meeting is legal. However, if the chairman has been ejected and that is not legal, then and then three other councillors who all happen to vote the same way, usually, then are the votes valid that were made during that meeting by the three councillors on the other sort of side of the aisle? Is the question I would have. I think someone brought it up, and I can't remember what was decided about that, but anyway, yeah. So Jacky Weaver, there is a connection to Marianne Williamson even. Jacky Weaver was on an interview talking about what she wanted to come out of all this sort of viral hoopla, and she said that she wanted young people to get involved in politics. Now this is really interesting because that is something that Marianne Williamson says too. I just saw her in an interview saying that she wants it to be the cool thing to do to go to a council meeting, which is great, good idea. However, the next meeting or the several meetings down the road from the viral meeting, there were a lot of people in the Zoom who were young people who were attracted to this sort of memotic drama of Handforth Parish Council. And so it was like 80 people in the Zoom, and you could see all these screens. And then, you know, there was Lily Camden who was on there having wine and laughing. And then I think some of the kids asked like troll questions, and then Sue and Cynthia got annoyed, and they were like, you know, we want this to be professional. These are people's lives, and we would ask people to respect the process. I think that's sort of spitting in the face of Providence there a little bit, because you had this sort of viral sensation which you could have harnessed, the best way to harness it is not to ask people to go back to the sort of boring snooze of council meetings, which can get very spicy, but there's a lot of like, you know, is someone going to propose, and then second, and it goes on, and that's if you don't have a speech from Brian Tolver. So so I think that it has to be, you have to allow the trolls a little bit in order to have the momentum to make the political point that you want to make, especially if you're fighting a hostile takeover from Wilmslow. There's a neighboring town that was trying to sort of, I think Cheshire East, which is a district, was trying to merge these two towns, and they were, you know, understandably not wanting to be absorbed into another town, and then they had this viral sensation. So I think all of that could have been harnessed without sort of dissing the kids who were there out of curiosity, and the trolling was quite sort of mild trolling. It was not like I've seen some nasty trolling, and this was not nasty. So I think that Sue and Cynthia were being a little bit stodgy about the kids on Zoom. Brian Tolver looked like he was having a whale of a time. I mean, when it was like 80 people in the Zoom, and then he was sort of hosting the meeting, or he was officially the chairman, and there were all these people. He had his like magnifying glass up to the screens, looking at people. Who's speaking? Who's interjecting? But I never saw him looking more pleased than in that one. Anyway, okay, I'm going to link these down below. I'm not Team Jacky Weaver or Team Brian Tolver or Team Aled Brewerton. I thought it was really, really interesting, though. And I thought that, yeah, I mean, you know, one of the girls, Lily Camden, said that she was inspired to get into her town council because of this incident. And I think that, it definitely drew a lot of interest. And now I'm upset because they have posted their latest update and the screen is black. So I can't see all the gesticulation and the, I know it's not for the drama, but you got to have a little bit of that sort of spice in order to hold people's interest if you want people, especially young people, to get so involved in councils and politics, especially given that we are in an age now, TikTok and all that. So like the attention spans are definitely different from generation to generation. And if you want young people to get involved, if it's a little bit kind of like reality TV, that doesn't hurt. It doesn't have to become the point. You don't have to go the route of reality TV where you're like manufacturing drama. Definitely don't do that. But I don't think you have to be uptight if people are there and they're excited because they're excited by some of the superficial stuff. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I guess that's it. I love you all. I will link these down below. Okay, bye. I've run out. There was more to say, but I've run out of thoughts. This is long already.